Hey, Pastor Josh here. Thanks so much for watching our videos. If you'd like more information about Legacy City Church, you can go to legacycitychurch.com. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell below. God bless you.
Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. Everybody in the room, come on, let's clap for mom. Let's celebrate all the moms today. I'm celebrating my wife. I've got the greatest mom here with me today that I know. My wife, Katie, so thankful that she's here with me today. And we have a special talk planned for you, just about all that the Lord's been doing in our lives at home and how He's ministering through us and how we get to love on our little baby. And I thought, why not bring the greatest mom that I know in and have her speak into our lives. And so, hey babe, how you doing?
It's fun to be at the barn.
Yes.
At your work.
You're here at my work. We just went to work together today. Bring your wife, bring your favorite mom to work day. And I'm so thankful again for just the blessing of the journey that we've been able to have together. How long have we been married, babe? We've been married 8 years, 9 years this year.
We just realized that we've been dating for 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
March 27th is our dating anniversary.
Wow, see, she remembers that. We've been dating for 10 years and married for a little over 8 years. We'll be 9 this year. And we have a little baby, Eden. And she is just 2 years old and a couple months. And she's having an absolute blast during this quarantine time, running around everywhere, having fun, looking for every opportunity for fun. She has no idea anything is going on in the world. She just knows that there are fun things to be had, and we're loving the time with her for sure. But it's not easy at home. It's not easy being a mom during this time and being at home, but the Lord is blessing us and carrying us through. And so we want to talk just a little bit about just our experience with motherhood and kind of the moms of influence in our lives and what we have learned about that and kind of our journey through this together. And so we're going to start this off kind of just bringing up some questions and talking through some of these ideas. And I'm really looking forward to diving into this with my wife. So babe, our life experience with moms, we have a unique situation, right? We have completely different upbringings.
Totally different. And I think this comes up a lot in just our marriage and our day-to-day life, how much these upbringings made us who we are, and it kind of changes our perspective. And it's super interesting that we both have such different ones. I don't know if you want to talk to your situation.
Yeah, I mean, my upbringing, as many of you know, my story was a lot different from most people in that I didn't grow up with a mom, or my mom died when I was 6 years old. She died in a car accident. And so my dad had to raise us by himself / with my grandma. So at a young age, my grandma Thompson moved in. This is my dad's mom. She moved into the house with us, and she was kind of our mom. So grandma stepped in, and we didn't have a mom. We didn't have that closeness with our mom like a lot of people do. I was 6, Jake was 4, and Jess was 2, I believe. So we were right in that young stage of life. My dad, young as well, obviously, and having to figure that out. And so grandma stepped in to help. And she, if you don't know who my grandma is, she grew up in Oklahoma on a farm. And she was educated only till the 5th or 6th grade, I think maybe 4th grade. I don't know. I don't remember. But somewhere there at the end of elementary school, she had to drop out. She had to actually teach herself to read. And she taught herself many things. And she grew up to work in the medical field and be a nurse, and then also run a rest home where she took care of lots of older people. She had this big house, and she would house them and take care of them. And that was my grandma's business. Well, she stepped away from all of that, and she moved into our house later in life, and she was pouring into us. And so that's kind of my background and situation growing up. And so, babe, how was your upbringing? I guess different, from mine.
I had I had my mom my whole life, and she actually chose to stay home with us. She was a teacher before she had kids, and just her desire was always to be home with her kids and pour into them. And so she stayed home with us, actually, and she homeschooled us. So not only was she home doing all the cleaning, the cooking, and watching the little kids, as soon as we could go to school, she kept us home and homeschooled us. So she took on double duty. So my mom, she just was such a passionate woman to teach. We learned Latin. She didn't mess around. We woke up in the morning, we listened to an hour of worship music to do chores, so we had a good attitude. She was just very excited about pouring into us the ways of the Lord, and she raised us in an environment where we had freedoms, but it was in a protected environment as long as my parents thought it was okay. But my mom was home with us, and she was involved in our lives on a daily basis.
We have these unique upbringings. I had grandma at home, who again wasn't my biological mother, but my wife had her biological mother at home, who's very closely acquainted and involved in her life. And the reason we point that out is because my mother figure, or the person that mothered me, is a spiritual mother, is someone who's not my actual mother. And there have been a lot of spiritual moms in my life over the years, a lot of women who have poured into my life through different stages, my grandma being the one who obviously did the most. But that's really speaking to a lot of you moms out there who are spiritual moms. And I really want to point that out, that you may not be a biological mother, but you are a spiritual mother, and you're pouring into many people around you. And there are a lot of kids who don't have moms and would love for a mother figure to step in and obviously not take over, but step in and be that mother figure in their lives, or teach them those things, or help them in those things. And many of you ladies in the church can be just that. Or maybe the Lord hasn't given you children yet, but you desire that one day. This is a great way to live that out, is to adopt sons and daughters spiritually and to pour into them, to love on them. So let's talk about a little bit how these moms impacted our lives today.
Yeah, my mom, Bonnie, we'll give her a name.
Daly.
John
Daly.
So when we were growing up, obviously things were not strict. She was just very sure of how she wanted to raise us biblically. And, kind of when you're a young kid, you don't know how that impacts you and how much your parents are doing for you. And you kind of you bet I was complaining about being homeschooled and, not listening to anything but Christian music and all these things. I complained about it all. But later in life, I had more of a freedom. I went to college, had a job. I had more freedom to go out and do whatever I wanted. And I started kind of pursuing things that weren't really the best for me. I had a little season where church was not a priority. I just wanted to do my own thing. I didn't really care, who I heard along the way, or I just had kind of a rebellious stage and hanging out with the wrong people and kind of doing the wrong stuff. And it's almost like my mom could see that. She could totally sense that. I know that she prayed for me my whole life, and she's always prayed for me. And during that season, I just came up to her and we kind of talked. She kind of approached me and she said, why are you doing this? Why are you hanging out with these people? And what I appreciate about my mom is she never forced things on me. She wasn't making me write scriptures if I disobeyed or anything like that. She didn't force things. It was she stood back, she put me in an environment, but she also allowed me to have freedom and discover things on my own and make my own choices. And when I did make the wrong choices, I saw her praying for me constantly. And she approached me one day and kind of questioned me on it. And I said, I just don't know what I'm doing with my life. I honestly don't know. And she's like, well, maybe you should go to Bible college. And that suggestion and that guidance is literally what I was going on, this path right here, which is not a good path. I know where I would have ended up. We joke about it a lot. And she took me on a whole other path. I went to Bible college. I met Josh. Somehow Bond was involved in that through her prayers. I know it because She was. And I just know that my mom impacted through so many years. I mean, it took 18, 20 years to even get to that place where she literally impacted the route I took in the path I took in my life. She literally impacted and changed that path. And so it took a long time to kind of see that, but it really does influence you in the long run. The way your mother prays for you and just is spiritual and does it in such a godly way, it seriously can impact your entire life as a kid. And I really, really, truly appreciate my mom doing that. And I would be a totally different person today if she didn't step in and say, hey, you know, what's going on? Like, she checked in with me, you know?
It's awesome. Yeah. You can run from your mother's presence, but you can't run from her prayers. Isn't that good? You know, my grandma definitely prayed for us as well, and she was a woman of the Word. She was reading it daily, and that she was anchored in it, and she instructed us daily. No doubt, there's no way I would be where I am today without all of that invested into our lives. My grandma was very strict on the things of God. There's no way she's not wavering one bit. I never saw her turn away from the Lord one time my entire life. I've never seen her curse the Lord. I've never seen her do anything against the Lord. She just was consistent in that. And me and my brothers, I mean, we ran amok, dude. We were ragtag renegades. You know, we were running around the streets doing crazy stuff, and my grandma was consistent. And my dad, no doubt, wanted to raise a godly family and have a godly home. We were going to be in church every single Sunday. You know, we're going to be worshiping the Lord. He was showing us God's love at a high degree. I remember seeing my dad read the Bible as well growing up, and he was a man of God. But he was off working all the time. He had to truck drive. He'd be gone for 2 or 3 days at a time. We'd be home with grandma. We'd be running around. So my grandma was just, the one thing that I remember is her consistency. She did not let up. And these are, again, when you're in your 70s, 80s, trying to run around chasing 3 boys, this is not easy. You know, you moms who have boys, they run amok, and they're not easy. They're rough. And we did just that, but my grandma stayed consistent, and she would instruct us in the Word of God on a daily basis, and I am thankful for that. Wow. To have a grandma, a spiritual mom who is praying for me, who is instructing me in God's Word, I can hear her voice even now saying to me, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart. I mean, she would get in our face and say that. And because she was telling us, I'm going to train you in the ways of the Lord. And I don't care that you're mad. You know, you're going to learn the Word of God. You're going to move forward. And so I'm very thankful for that. My grandma impacted me and all 3 of my brothers. I mean, all 3 of us greatly. Let's talk about what kind of sacrifices we saw our moms, and what kind of sacrifices we see moms make during that time of their life.
Well, I think the sacrifice my mom probably mostly made, because now I can speak to it because I have a kid and I see how hard it is to be home all day. It's hard. It's not easy to be home all day. And then on top of it, homeschool. That is such a challenge. And thank goodness my mom was passionate in that. But she sacrificed. She could have been out there making money, and we could have lived maybe a better lifestyle or had nicer things, but she thought it was more important to be home with us and homeschool us so we had a good education, and we had a biblical education, and that she protected us from some of the stuff in the world that's, you know, it's hard because you can't protect kids from everything, but she just decided she was going to do it. She's going to homeschool us. And she did it. I was homeschooled from kindergarten until I graduated high school, and she did it, and I can't believe she did it because now I know how hard that is, and she truly sacrificed that for us, and I really appreciate it. And it's amazing you don't see the sacrifice when you're a kid. So I would say, moms, if your kid is nagging you and being mean to you, they don't even know. Like, right. Wait till they're older, because they have no idea how much you're sacrificing. And so it's almost like you can't listen to them now. You have to wait till they're like 30 and they have a family, and then they're like, Mom, you did so much for me. Like you gave up your world. So, yeah, she truly sacrificed a lot, and it was fun. Like she didn't make us feel bad the whole time. Like, oh, I sacrificed my whole life for you guys. No, it's like we went to Disneyland because we were homeschooled during the week, and like we went to the beach and like we had fun. And so, yeah, she made it really fun.
Yeah. And my situation a little bit different, obviously, but my grandma, she sacrificed a ton for us. She again stepped into our lives and helped not only with her time. Her retirement was us. She didn't have retirement. She didn't go on vacation. She didn't do any of those things ever. I never saw her go on one vacation her whole life, or the whole time that she was with us. I remember her because we didn't have money, because my dad had a low-paying job at the time, most of that time, and he was working as hard as he could to make what he could, but my grandma, I remember us on welfare. I remember her applying for food stamps, and we had the government cheese, the block of government cheese, yes! That's what happened. And I watched my grandma, whatever retirement she had put away, whatever savings and 401k or whatever she had put away from her rest home, she spent all of that money on buying food and groceries for our family. So I saw a huge sacrifice, and I think me, Jake, and Jess, we remember that as kids, that really every dime, that we had was going to buy some bread or going to buy some milk or going to buy whatever. And my grandma, week after week, was doing that. She also had to give up her truck. She didn't have a vehicle, so she rode her bike every single day to the grocery store or around the block or wherever she had to go. My grandma was that old lady that you see riding on the bike all through town. She was the one. She grew food for us in the backyard. We had 20 different fruit trees. We had strawberries, and we had onions in the garden. We had all the vegetables. We had sunflower seeds. We go pick off the sunflowers and eat. Navel oranges, persimmons, you name it. We had an amazing wealth of food that she had built in the backyard. So she sacrificed labor as well. My grandma, you'd find her working in the backyard with a garden hoe, like digging the ground. This is in her 70s and 80s. And you better believe it, she'd grab us and say, get to work. And so we were working at a young age as well. We can talk about that later. But my grandma sacrificed greatly, massively, to take care of our family and to help my dad. And my dad sacrificed greatly, do the best he can as well. And we're blessed. That's the cool thing, is that as kids, we understood, but we didn't fully know. We were just enjoying what was right in front of us. We were just living life. We were thankful for the life that we had. And so moms, spiritual moms, grandmoms sacrifice unbelievably for their family. They do things that nobody sees. And we want to encourage all you moms today. God sees. He sees everything that you do. You are doing a fantastic job for your family, and the Lord is always going to honor you for that. And family, husbands and children here today, we need to honor our moms who sacrifice so greatly for us. Amen. Let's talk about the spiritual example that your mom set in your life, and I'll talk the same about my grandma. But how, what kind of spiritual impact, like practical things did you see happening in the home that you think might be helpful to some of the moms listening?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I saw my mom every morning reading her Bible, and it wasn't like she announced, I'm reading my Bible, it's Devo time. It's like, no, she was just, that's what she did. She woke up, she had her Bible there, and she was reading her Bible, and I just would walk by and I'd see it. She didn't need, it was like a quiet way of doing it, but that has so much more impact than kind of being like, oh, look at me, I'm reading my Bible. No, she did it in a quiet way, and I think that shows like she genuinely loved the Lord. And I could see that outside the home and inside the home, she's the same person. She's not at church, putting on a face and being nice to everyone, and then behind closed doors, like being mean to us or whatever. So she was who she was at home was who she was out in public. And that is another thing I think that's the Lord working in you, because that's a true heart that's purified. Is there's no two-facedness there, or whatever the word is for that. But she did that, and my mom and my dad, they both taught us the earliest age we were able to, we were serving in the church. And so I feel like I was a toddler myself and I was helping out in the toddlers. I was probably like 7 though. But my parents were like, you're going to serve the church. That's what we do. We serve the church, and we're in the community and we're part of this church. And so we're going to serve. And so we did children's ministry like probably most of my life. I helped out with kids. I always was involved in church, and that was totally my parents' example. And sometimes they had to say, no, we're going to church, but most of the time we wanted to. It was really fun, and it was something we loved to do as a family. And so when I was older and I wanted to stray and kind of not go to church, it's like that brought me back because I'd done that my whole life, and I knew I knew where the right place to go was, because I contrasted it. Once I saw what the world had to offer, I knew like, I don't want this. Like I want what I had, what I grew up with. And so that was a huge impact to serve and do that. And probably the most spiritual thing was she had us read our Bible every morning and do chores and listen to worship. And we couldn't listen to non-Christian music. And I feel like that was good, because I think when you're young, you're more impressionable. I listen to whatever now, but when you're younger, something happens. So I'm very happy she did that. I kind of missed out on Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys, but I've listened to it and I don't know if I really missed anything. But Justin Timberlake, I did miss out on. But yeah, so she really, my mom was just such a great example, and I love that she did it in a quiet way and not forceful and not holier than thou, like I'm better than you because I read my word. And she just did it in a quiet way, and I respect that, and I hope that Eden will see that in me and one day want to emulate that.
She will. And she will. And the same for me. You know, my grandma, she read through the Bible every single year of her life. Every single year that I knew her, she was reading through it, and she had said she'd been doing that since she was young. She lived to be 86, 87, something like that. And so let's just say she read it since she was 20 years old. I don't know. You know, that's a good 60 times through the Bible, easy. Man, it's hard getting through just one time, huh? But year after year, and I would see her, she'd have her magnifying glass, and she would have her Bible, and she would be doing this, reading through the text. And she would get through it every single year. And that caused her to then instruct us in the ways of the Lord. And that's how she set the example. She would discipline us consistently. How do you discipline 3 boys? With a switch. You grab a belt, you grab an extension cord, whatever is necessary. I'm not condoning or recommending those things. I'm just saying that we were wild kids, man. And honestly, I don't look back on my childhood as my dad or my grandma being heavy-handed with us. Not at all. The love was so unbelievable and so overwhelming that I kind of wish they disciplined us a little bit more, because we were bad kids. We got away with a lot of stuff, and I could see that her honing us and instructing us and disciplining us is what was keeping us in line and what was giving us a conscience long-term that would actually guide us and direct us in wisdom and godly character. And so I didn't know the right thing to do as a kid. I barely knew the right thing to do when I was in my 20s. You know, I'm trying to figure out like how to navigate this world, but the instruction and discipline of my grandma and my dad, that's what kept us on track. One of the other things I love and I'm very thankful for is my grandma enabled us to grow in practical ways of working when we were kids. And so, I mean, I remember like being 7 years old, 8 years old, I'm running the lawnmower, like I'm mowing the grass. You know, she'd tell me to go out and rototill the ground with a shovel, and we'd be digging it, me and my brothers digging the ground. She'd be like, get up there in that tree. Again, I'm 9 years old with a saw in my hand, I'm cutting down a tree, you know, and her motto and the way of thinking was, you know, when she was in 5th or 6th grade, she was already driving the tractor, you know, running the farm, and so, or going out and taking care of the cows. And so she saw children at a young age enabled to have large responsibility and to be able to do things And so she figured we could too. The way that transfers into my life, Jake's life, and Jesse's life today is we can literally almost pick up anything and figure it out if given enough time. And the work ethic too. I asked myself, where does that drive come from after a long day of work to want to pick up another project? I think it can be one of the sins in my life, almost like a workaholic. Like I love just building and working more and doing more things to do, more things to achieve. But the positive, godly side of that is my grandma built that into us in practical ways. A spiritual example of her picking up the shovel, old woman, and just going after it every single day. Just like, wow. So I'm thankful for the seeds that she planted, and the fruit that's come forth is like, wow. I mean, my dad always says that. So proud of you boys. Never thought, any of this could come from me, he would say, because it's just amazing to see what the Lord has done over the years. And so very thankful. I want to talk finally, just to those women who want to be moms and are hoping to be moms and can be moms spiritually even now. We want to talk about that for just a moment.
Yeah, this affects us personally because this is our experience as a couple. For 6 years. We couldn't have kids, and so 6 Mother's Days I was just done. Like, I was so sad on that day, and it's not because you don't appreciate your mom or anything like that. It's so hard to be reminded of it when you're reminded of it every day. And so I think every Mother's Day I think about those women, and we always want them to feel you're not left out, you're not less than. You can pour into someone today as a spiritual mother. The Lord has given us that capability to do that. And so who in your circle, who in your life is young? Who can you speak into? Who can you be a spiritual mother to? I think that is so healthy to pour into during this time because it's really hard to get through it. But who can you speak into? You have a little niece or nephew, or those little things, you don't realize they impact you for life when people pour into you spiritually. And even practically, just taking your little niece or nephew out to, I don't know, paint their nails or do something fun. So I would say please try to pour into someone you can today. It helps put the energy there. And I know it's a tough time. There's really no right way and there's no right answer to deal with what you deal with today. But I would just encourage you to find someone who you can pour into. And I just had a couple scriptures that the Lord put on my heart. I kind of went through my old journals of when I was going through those tough seasons, and I just wanted to share with you. This one really speaks to me now as a mom and a wife. It says, a wise woman builds her home, but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands. And that's Proverbs 14:1. And I'm guilty of this, and it's difficult not to tear everything down and just be like, when you're frustrated and you're having a bad day, just let that out. But I love the word that a wise woman builds her home. So what can you do to build? Spiritually, praying and seeking the Lord. That is building your family up, and maybe words that build your family instead of tear them down. How can you change the words you're speaking to your kids or your spouse to build them up and not tear them down? I thought that one's good, and I'm going to post that one this week during quarantine. And the other one is, I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I shall not be moved. Therefore my heart is glad, and my glory rejoices. My flesh also shall rest in hope. That's Psalm 16:8-9. And that one's just, that one hit me when I was kind of going through the infertility things and feeling like I was out of control and the Lord wasn't answering my prayers and I didn't understand. And I think it's important to always remember the Lord is there. He's right next to you, and you just have to seek him. And it's just encouraging because you won't be moved. Your heart can be glad. And it wouldn't be Mother's Day without crying, but those things are just so encouraging as a mom, because sometimes you just feel defeated. But the Lord, he's going to carry you through it, and he's going to get you through those tough times. And I love also that it says, my flesh shall also rest in hope. And I think that's important, to have hope. And the only thing you can really hope in this life is Christ. And eternity and the things to come. And I think that's so important. When you feel like at the bottom, like there's no hope, there's nothing to look forward to, you can rest in eternity and Christ and the gospel. And that's what we put our hope in, and that's what gets us through things that are impossible to get through. And I just want to encourage you today. I understand, and I feel your pain, and I know what you're going through.
It's nice again to be able to hear from somebody who's gone through it, who's going through it, who is experiencing, ladies, what you're experiencing at home, having to put up with your crazy husband and crazy kids. And we're just so thankful again for you moms who just anchor everything down and just keep everything wonderful. And so we want to encourage you today, and we want to bless you today, and we want to just celebrate all that you've done and all that you're going to continue to do. Your work is not in vain. Fruit will come forth. The Lord is going to minister through you and to your children. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart. My grandma would say to us today. And so thank you, babe, for joining us today and talking. And we just want to bless you, all you moms out there, and pray God's blessing and peace and rest over you during this difficult time, and that the Lord would continue to strengthen and carry you through. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms.